How's that?
This week on a special edition of At the Movies with Ebert and Roeper, our picks for the best.
Let's face it, this is not the worst thing you've caught me doing.
And the worst movies of the year so far.
Not impressed.
Are you ready?
I was born ready.
I'm sorry, brother. I thought you said you were ready.
That was awesome! Let's go again!
From the people that brought us Shrek, a movie I liked more than any of the Shrek movies, it's Kung Fu Panda. And here's a hint, it's going to appear somewhere on my list of the best movies of the year so far. I'm Michael Phillips. And I'm Richard Roeper. From Cloverfield and 27 Dresses in January to late spring releases such as Indiana Jones and Sex and the City, we've seen well over 100 movies already this year. Time to look at some of our favorites. I'm going to start things off with a movie that made me laugh as much as any comedy I've seen in my 8 years on the show. That's right, it's Forgetting Sarah Marshall, a fresh, goofy, sweet, sexy, and raunchy film. Jason Segel wrote the screenplay and stars as Peter. He's a soft-bodied, quick-witted, broken-hearted glute who's devastated when his TV actress girlfriend dumps him. We've all been there, right? From the leads to some key cameo appearances, everybody gets in on this chuckle fest.
Well, she was with me for 5 years, so there you go.
Yeah, you've got 4 on me there, mate.
You slept with Sarah a year ago?
Oh, I thought you knew. Peter, please, don't take it seriously.
You can't be so casual about this. This isn't Europe, okay? There are rules here.
Also on my list, the beautifully crafted film called The Visitor. Character actor Richard Jenkins gets the role of a lifetime as a cranky, widowed professor who's sleepwalking through late middle age. His uptight, protective casing shatters, though, when he becomes deeply invested in a friendship with an illegal immigrant who's facing deportation.
Where's Tarek?
He was arrested.
How could this happen?
He didn't do anything wrong.
We are not citizens. I'm looking for my son.
He's being held in a detention center.
I just want to play my music. What's so wrong about that?
The Visitor raises questions about all sorts of issues in our post-9/11 world. But instead of preaching to us, it draws us in with a deeply moving character study. This is a largely undiscovered treasure, this film. It really deserves a wider audience, Michael.
Boy, nothing would make me happier than to see Richard Jenkins get an Oscar nomination come next year, you know what I mean?
No, I think there's a chance. I mean, obviously we have a long way to go, but it's definitely one of the best performances of the year so far, and I think it'll hold up against, you know, bigger performances in bigger movies by bigger stars.
If it can be remembered. And I love it with Forgetting Sarah Marshall. I love how you've gone from loving it to now leaving it everything in your will.
Yeah,
you know?
Well, just remember it's all about Mila Kunis. Okay. I think that's a bumper sticker I'm going to get to you later this show.
Okay, I'm starting out with a big budget animated feature and a small budget documentary, and they both have real personality. Kung Fu Panda stars the voice of Jack Black as Po, a big old panda in ancient China who dreams of martial arts glory. The plus-size hero is selected to become the Dragon Warrior. His heroes, the Furious Five, may be skeptical about Po's fighting chances, but teamwork is job one when your kingdom is being threatened by a nasty snow leopard. One of many satisfactions of Kung Fu Panda is that all the jokes actually belong in the same movie. It's the opposite of something like Shrek or an Ice Age sequel, in other words, which riff on everything and anything.
You are not the Dragon Warrior. You will never be the Dragon Warrior until you have learned the secret of the Dragon Scroll. Whoa. So, how does this work? Do you have a ladder or trampoline or...
I also loved Young at Heart, which follows the fortunes of a most unusual senior citizen choral group. Now, the gimmick here is that chorus director Bob Silman favors things like Sonic Youth's Schizophrenia and Road to Nowhere by the Talking Heads. But it's pretty amazing to hear these folks put their own spin on classic hits.
Hey there, baby. I could use just a little help. You can't start a fire. You can't start a fire without a spark. This gun's for hire. Even if we're just dancing in the dark.
Young at Heart was made for British TV, and I think the director Stephen Walker condescends here and there to the nutty Americans he's interviewing, but by the time the movie gets to its big concert, we've come to know and love all these valiant folks, and the movie is pretty irresistible.
I'm so glad you mentioned Young at Heart. You know, as is the case with The Visitor, it's almost like we're force-feeding these smaller films to people sometimes, and I'll hear from viewers saying, well, I know you guys loved it on the show, but I didn't know if I wanted to see it. But then they see it, and they're like, oh, thank you so much for sharing this film with us. They loved it, and in both cases, yes, they're smaller films, but they're very accessible, they're very smart, very entertaining, and I haven't heard from anybody who's seen Young at Heart or The Visitor who was disappointed.
Right. Good intentions don't get me into the theater any quicker than anybody else. It's all
know?
about how it comes out, and both of them very good, I think.
Coming up next, one huge blockbuster plus a couple you probably missed as we continue listing the best movies of the year so far.
We're still alive.
Richard and I are continuing to count down our list of the best movies of the year so far. Now, I love sticking up for the misunderstood, barely released art house picture, which is why my next pick is Iron Man. Robert Downey Jr. is a big part of this smash hit's appeal. He seems like a reluctant superhero, which is perfect for this story of billionaire industrialist Tony Stark, who survives around with the Taliban to become a different person with a great retro futurist flying suit. Everybody seems to like this picture, and for good reason. It's a lot of fun. Here's Stark, tries to get the hang of his new invention.
Sometimes you gotta run before you can walk. Ready? In 3, 2, 1.
No one has a flying suit in my next pick, but Reprise is a terrific film about young Norwegians in love and literary torment, and the way it's shot and edited, you really do feel like you're flying. The movie barrels through the friendship and rivalry of two writers in their early 20s, and straight off, you're going to know whether or not Joachim Trier's film is for you. At the beginning, the two friends are about to mail their respective manuscripts in hopes of getting published. Now, here's how we see what's on their mind.
Manuskriptene ville ankommet forlaget, og de ville straks ha blitt antatt. Bøkene ville kommet ut følgende høst. Etter mange års hardt arbeid ville de endelig kunne kalt seg forfattere. Bøkene ville ha solgt heller dårlig, men heldigvis brydde Erik og Philip seg lite om salgstall.
Stimulating filmmaking. Reprise nails what it's like to be in your 20s and ready for anything, except perhaps for what life actually has in store for you. I like that film.
What a good film. You know, Michael, I can't say that the first half of 2008 has been as strong as the first half of 2007, but there are some small films like Young at Heart and The Visitor and Reprise that we're celebrating here, as well as, I'm right with you on Iron Man. I think, you know, it's probably about 40 minutes into the movie before we get Iron Man, but the Tony Stark character is just as fascinating, if not more so. And of course, you have such a terrific supporting cast with Terrence Howard and Gwyneth Paltrow. I know you liked her performance quite a bit.
Very
Jeff
good.
Daniels. So.
And that's the key to the, that's the key to the movie.
Here.
Yeah, and the key to that movie too, Iron Man, it doesn't feel like a $150 million monster that had that kind of blockbuster freight behind it. It just feels like a good story, well told.
Made by director Jon Favreau, who loves the original comic book character, you can tell. Okay, one of the most entertaining movies of 2008 so far is The Bank Job. It's not easy to pull off a really good heist film, but the veteran director Roger Donaldson is on his game here in this gritty and fast-paced thriller, which is based on a real-life case from 1971. Jason Statham, one of my favorite guys, is tailor-made for the role of a small-time crook that sets his sights on the proverbial one big score. With just the right mix of fact-based sequences and flights of speculation, The Bank Job is the most entertaining film of its kind since The Italian Job.
We can pull in here from Glentworth Street into the car park for drop-offs and pick-ups without being seen from the street.
We'll dig a tunnel from the basement of the shop, under the chicken inn, and pop up in the safe deposit vault.
I've got a question. What do I stop now about digging tunnels?
Nothing.
We get another smashing blend of historical fact and dramatic license in the HBO film Recount. As with All the President's Men, we know how everything's going to turn out, yet there's a legitimate feeling of suspense throughout. As George W. Bush enters the sunset of his second term as president, we're reminded by this film of how close he came to losing to Al Gore in 2000. Even after the election was over, it wasn't over.
I was sad to hear that Secretary Daley and Secretary Christopher left Tallahassee. Will you be leaving too?
No, sir, I'll be here until the vice president fires me again.
Well, then I should tell you, you're probably going to lose tomorrow.
It's certainly one of two possibilities.
To its credit, Recount doesn't wallow in liberal self-righteousness. Yes, the story is told primarily from the Democrats' point of view, but Tom Wilkinson, Bob Balaban, and Laura Dern bring humanity and some depth to their portrayal of some key Republicans. Even if your blue state heart was broken in 2000, I think you'll enjoy this whip-smart film.
Man, that is well directed to a big jump up for that director, Jay Roach.
Yeah.
You know, I thought, with Meet the Parents.
Who took over for the late Sidney Pollack, who was had to leave the project, actually.
That's right.
Recount.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that's exactly the kind of project Pollack would have championed back in the 70s, too. But yeah, Recount really holds.
But you're right, Jay Roach did a really nice job in the casting. You know, at the end of the film, you see the real-life people and the actors who portray them, who don't necessarily physically resemble them without the makeup and the costuming and everything. But when you see them, you're like, wow, what great casting
and
here.
Particularly sharp work from Tom Wilkinson, who was so good in Michael Clayton. And he's the guy. Man, he's going to be around for decades.
I hope so. I hope so. Coming up next, we give our picks for absolutely, positively the best movies of the year so far.
And this morning, and this afternoon, we are doing what I want to do. Got it? Of course.
Which I presume will involve culture.
Well, we shall strike a balance between culture and fun.
Somehow I believe, Ken, that the balance shall tip in the favor of culture.
And now Michael and I will each reveal our pick for the very best movie of the year so far. My selection is the masterful In Bruges, which just may contain my favorite hitman buddy movie pairing since Pulp Fiction. Colin Farrell gives one of his best performances as a jumpy young hothead, haunted by his last hit job. But this is Brendan Gleeson's movie. Okay, he's a killing machine, but he always keeps in touch with his softer side as well. This leads to some brilliant dark humor.
Your girlfriend's very pretty.
She ain't my girlfriend. She's a prostitute I just picked up.
Didn't know there were any prostitutes in Bruges.
Just have to look in the right places. Brothels are good.
Well, you've picked up a very pretty prostitute.
Thank you.
Some scenes in this film play like Tarantino-flavored Fellini, and I think you've had that before. The weirdness abounds, and the symbolism sometimes comes in big, bold letters. But you know what? I love the artsy touches, the black comedy, and most of all, the fearless performances. I'm telling you, I love this film.
This writer-director, Martin McDonagh, he's going to have a good, long future in the movies. I mean, he's already been writing plays for 10 years, and yeah, he writes dialogue like nobody since David Mamet. Really, really sharp dialogue.
That's quite a compliment, and I agree with you. You know, this is the kind of film, again, where, you know, from the title to the material, it was never going to be a blockbuster.
No.
People who did see it really appreciate it.
Richard, you're right. That's what the first half of a lot of movie-going years are about. You know, these small pictures that are very good, often get lost in the shuffle, but, you know, they're worth looking out for. Like my next one, my favorite film of the year so far, Snow Angels. Now, in box office terms, nobody went to Snow Angels, director David Gordon Green's adaptation of the Stuart Onan novel about the events leading to a small-town shooting. I saw the picture at Sundance almost a year and a half ago, and right from the beginning, those who loved it knew it would be a tough sell. It's extremely powerful, though.
Wait, so you got a job?
Yeah.
I mean, you're working?
Yeah.
It's not like Rafe just hooked you up at the carpet warehouse or something?
Well, actually, yeah. You know, it's not amazing, Annie, but I'm trying, you know?
And the second time I saw it, I found the relationship unraveling at its center, the marriage of the characters played by Sam Rockwell and Kate Beckinsale, to be perfectly balanced with the first bloom of love experienced by the teenage characters. They're played by Michael Angarano and Olivia Thirlby.
I think I like you. And I think you like me, too. And you're just afraid to say it. Huh? At least I want you to like me, because...
Huh? What's that?
When you smile, I think it's attractive.
So in between those two extremes, you have Angarano's separated parents in a gray area of possible reconciliation. Snow Angels does get pretty grim, and it's not always easy to watch, but it is hard to forget if you give yourself over to it. Nice work.
Michael, it's very nice work. One of my favorite films of the year so far. And, you know, it's not just audience reluctance that sometimes hurts these films. I think it's more the studios and the commercial considerations from the start, where it's just not playing in a lot of theaters. It doesn't get a big push unless in the opening weekend it does surprisingly well. David Gordon Green, we've seen this with each of his films. They're so good. And I think with Pineapple Express, which is coming up later, he'll have a chance to gain a wider audience, and then maybe people will go back and see beautiful films like Snow Angels.
That's right. In this marketplace, you know, films don't have 3-4 weeks to kind of build word of mouth. It's like 1 or 2 weeks in and out, and that's why DVD is so important. You know? Okay, coming up next, we each make our pick for the worst movies of the year so far, and Richard's going to be dead wrong.
Look, man, that boxing stuff doesn't cut it anymore, bro. This is just some of the best mixed martial arts you'll ever see.
People who come here for the wrong reasons, they never last.
I'm a quick learner.
Everyone up.
What do I do?
Learn quickly.
And now's the time for Richard and I to name our picks for the worst movies of the year so far. In my opinion, the most inept movie of the year so far was probably 88 Minutes, which is held together only by whoever was responsible for the care and feeding of Al Pacino's hair. But I have to go instead with the film I didn't like when I saw it. It's only gotten more rancid with time. And tragically, Richard, I believe it's a film you recommended.
What is it?
That's right. It's Never Back Down. The one about the misunderstood kid who gets goaded into the world of mixed martial arts, Florida Teen Division. Ineptitude is one thing, but hypocrisy is worse, and Never Back Down is the hypocrite of the year movie-wise. It condemns violence in such a way that totally stokes you for the next ass swamping. And it actually ends up being a convincing argument for totally backing down, which is what you should do for touting it in the first place. I say, you're insane. But I mean that in all due respect. You know.
Well, you know, it's not hypocritical. The anti-violence message, that much message and that much violence. They know you're going to see a goofy video game brought to life, and that's an insult to quality video games. Come on, man. This movie was fun from start to finish.
No. Put this thing
all
on
these great-looking kids doing a junior league version of Fight Club.
Yeah.
It was funny
I say
stuff.
put this thing on a double bill with Drill Bit Taylor and just let the sociopathic bullies slug it out.
Isn't it something how we never have a shortage of worst movie of the year contenders, including 88 Minutes? And indeed, for my worst movie of the year, I could have gone with about a half-dozen disposable romantic comedies or an artsy con job like The Tracy Fragments or Funny Games. But how could I deny 10,000 BC? I believe this is a film that wants to be the worst movie of this or any other year, so I'm going to honor it accordingly. How else do you explain the wacky anachronisms, the incredibly bad acting, the hokey narration, the consistently hacky direction from Roland Emmerich? Ladies and gentlemen, The Flintstones was more historically accurate. I half expected to see one of the warrior tribes climb into a minivan at one point. 10,000 BC stars Stephen Strait in a performance so wooden he makes Steven Seagal look like Dustin Hoffman, and Camilla Bell, who apparently stopped at the makeup counter in a store at Beverly Hills on her way to the set.
Oh, cool. Some Lay's here.
This film is not campy enough to be a guilty pleasure. It's just loud and dopey and obnoxious and stupid and bad. I can't imagine any critic in the world actually recommending this film. Can you?
Yo, and yet you're sitting next to the one who could see through all the kitsch to the inner kitsch of the film, which is, yes, I agree. Look, it's energetic junk. I totally admit to that. It's an indefensible pick in many ways, but I got to say...
Well, good. Stop right there.
Hold on. It's my indefensible pick. Could totally kick your indefensible kick's ass. I mean, it's no question about it.
So Never Back Down from your review of 10,000 BC will be the documentary about your life.
I think just for Camilla's tweezed eyebrows alone, I mean, incredible eyebrow work for that epoch.
It's insulting to the audience. At least Never Back Down is saying wink, wink. 10,000 BC. I don't know what it was doing, but I want to erase it from my memory after this show airs. Please.
Really?
Please.
I'm good with the mammoths. I'm good.
Okay, we'll be back to recap this week's show right after this. So, recapping our picks, the best movies of the year so far for me in no particular order are Forgetting Sarah Marshall, The Visitor, The Bank Job, Recount, and the best movie of the year so far, In Bruges.
And my picks are Kung Fu Panda, Young at Heart, Iron Man, The Freeze, and the best movie of the year so far for me, Snow Angels.
Yeah. And then, of course, we had our worst picks. Yours was Never Back Down. Mine was 10,000 BC. And I don't know, I think two of us are right and one of us is wrong, or one of us is right and two of us are wrong, and people should probably stay away from both of these movies, even though I recommended one of them.
Right. Yeah, and there's a whole other field of kind of these lame romantic comedies.
Fool's Gold. How can we forget? 27 Dresses.
Exactly.
Maid of Honor.
Maid of Honor. If you took half a Maid of Honor and half of What Happens in Vegas, you got a pretty strong contender for the low ender.
Vegas. Jeez. Yeah. Although one romantic comedy I really liked was Definitely Maybe with Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah, pleasantly non-formulaic. Yeah, exactly. Well acted. Yeah, and I'd say the same for Cloverfield in a way. Although it had this big hype going in to get one kind of picture, it ended up being a smaller, different kind of picture, but very good.
Good movie. All right, that's it for this week. Until next week, the balcony is closed.
It's Discover America pancakes at IHOP. Try mouth-watering Maine blueberry, Kansas carrot cake, and California strawberry.
Pass the syrup.
IHOP. Come hungry, leave happy.
From Jennifer, get 2 microfiber recliners for just $2.99. It's the lowest price ever. Both recliners for $2.99. More comfort, more value. Jennifer Convertibles.
Nice finger. A wart could get used to this.
Did it get cold? Dr. Scholl's Freeze Away removes warts fast with as little as 1 treatment.
You'll miss me.
Dr. Scholl's Freeze Away.
I couldn't sleep, so I tried new Unisom Sleep Melts.
Fast dissolving and tastes great.
You'll melt asleep fast, stay asleep, and wake refreshed.
New Unisom Sleep Melts.
Melt asleep fast.
It might seem strange, but your antenna TV could become just a box if you don't get this box. In February 2009, some TVs will stop working unless they're upgraded to digital television with this DTV converter box. Without this upgrade, your antenna TV will not work. Make sure your TV is DTV. Call 888-DTV-2009 or visit dtvanswers.com. Don't let your TV become just a box.